What's good, YouTube? Listen, everybody's in an uproar right now because of some things that Cam Newton said on Gillian Wallow's podcast.
A woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs, right? And I think a lot of times when you get that aesthetic of like, I'm a boss, like I'm a this, I'm a that, no, baby, like, but you can't cook.
Okay.
You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead.
He basically said that a lot of women don't know how to cook, which I'm not, I'm not going to address. But he also said that a lot of women don't know when to be quiet and let a man lead. I personally think that there's a lot of truth in what he was saying and a lot of falsehood in what he was saying, right? And when you generalize, you get that, right? You miss some spots when you generalize. And so I'm not in complete disagreement with what he's saying, but I'm in disagreement with it in a tunnel or in a vacuum without proper context and acknowledgement of other circumstances that lead to that, right? To the point that while I might not disagree with him completely, there still needs to be some accountability from men in these situations, right? Especially a man like Cam Newton. Even so, I will say what I agree with him on before I say what I disagree on. To be quite honest, a lot of women are very abrasive. He mentioned boss bitches in particular. And to that, I just say, why would you date a woman who would identify herself as that? Why would you date a woman with that mindset or that attitude? If she's that and she's identified as that, then you don't want that. Why even deal with those women? Why take her, experience her, and then generalize all women? That doesn't make any sense. So just avoid the boss bitch if that's what they call themselves and that's what you don't like. Why even deal with that type of person, right? But beyond that, there are a lot of women who do have an issue with, being quiet, as he said. And it's his issue to deal with if he's choosing women who, aren't respectful, if that's what he means, or aren't necessarily selective in the words they choose, if that's what he means. A lot of times we have to create as men a safe environment for a woman to be emotionally vulnerable with us enough that she knows how to or feels capable in expressing her vulnerabilities and her fears as vulnerabilities and fears instead of anger. A lot of people protect themselves with expressing anger or aggression because it's easier and it feels more empowering to display those emotions, and you feel more in control of yourself displaying negative emotions than displaying vulnerability and more soft, more tender emotions, right? So sometimes women do have an issue with that. But look at our environment. Look at what's contributed to it. Look at the lack of protection they've gotten from men. Look at the lack of commitment they've gotten from men. Look at the lack of loyalty that they've gotten from men. They've learned to and evolved into people who had to protect themselves. And sometimes it's hard to put that shield down and allow yourself to trust someone in a relationship, right? Which leads to these women being in what people keep saying, their masculine energy. So if that's the verbiage we're using, women are often in their masculine energy because they've grown accustomed to not feeling safe. They've grown accustomed to needing to protect themselves because they are largely unprotected. Even so, to the women saying, well, these women will naturally fall in line. These women would naturally submit to a good man or to a strong man or to a masculine man or to the right man if she found him. You're just not the right man, so it's back to your fault. It's the man's fault. While I understand why these women might be defensive, we have to be realistic. A woman in the habit, or a woman who's evolved to be the type of woman who doesn't necessarily know when to relinquish power or when to allow a person to guide her when they are equipped to do so. A woman who's been accustomed to protecting herself without the help of anyone else. A woman who has hardened and calloused her heart over time to other people's influence isn't just going to change because she meets the right man. That's a fallacy. Women's first rebuttal to a Cam Newton-like statement, women don't know how to shut up and let a man lead, or whatever shit he said, again, which a lot of it's wrong, but there's a lot of truth to it. But women who normally respond with, well, if he was the right man, she would let him lead. If he was the right man, she would submit, or whatever. And this submission thing is a whole nother piece of garbage that I really don't want to get into right now, right? People submit to each other. You should submit where you're incompetent to lead. Period. That's how I feel, right? So sometimes a man submits, sometimes a woman submits. Whoever is capable and competent should be leading, not just because you have a dick and balls. A pair of balls doesn't It doesn't gift a man wisdom. A pair of balls doesn't gift a man the leadership quality that he deserves to be listened to just because he's a man, right? So I don't believe that at all. Men need to learn how to lead. They need to learn how to be men first, and they need to also learn how to be men in the absence of being rulers. Right. So there's a lot of development that men have to go through before I believe them to be adequate enough leaders to just be trying to lead in all of their relationships and all of the situations. And I don't know if anyone's ever capable of leading in every situation. So that's an imbalance there. But to the point of a woman might let a man lead if he's the right man. She'll naturally submit to the right man. That's a fallacy. That's bullshit. No more than a felon or a thief or a criminal, a predicate felon, a repeat criminal, been in prison over and over again. Someone would say, well, he's a product of his environment, right? He's lived a life of crime because of his environment, right? So the environment's been the impoverished neighborhood. The environment's been the prison, the punishment for that impoverished neighborhood and the culture that he built in his own life because of it, right? So if that's the environment and we're saying that he's a product of his environment, right? If you get that guy out of prison and you just gave him a high-paying job that paid him more money than all the crimes ever, is he immediately just going to be a model citizen? Is he immediately going to be a trustworthy employee? Is he immediately going to be non-criminal in all of his dealings, or will he corrupt that good job? He's more likely, as a product of his environment, to corrupt that good job. So just like that predicate felon or that career criminal, when women say, well, a woman will naturally submit to the right man, a woman will naturally let the right man lead. Not that I value a man leading in exclusivity. That is not the point I'm making. I don't believe in that. But to that point that a woman might just change for the right man, that's bullshit. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. You've grown into the person you are based on your experience. You don't just get to change who you are because you like somebody more or because someone else has more skill than the last person you dealt with. Just like a criminal, a predicate felon, a career criminal will corrupt the good manner and the good ethics of a job that pays him more money than he's ever made in his life because he's become criminal in his mindset. A woman who's become defensive in her mindset, abrasive in her presentation of ideas, rough in the way she handles people, and callous in the way she deals with relationships is not going to automatically be soft and tender and gentle and coachable. That's not how that works. She's normally going to corrupt her relationship by fighting for a position of power with the man who's trying to guide her away from some of the things that she's grown accustomed to. Because no matter how safe he tries to make her feel, she doesn't feel safe. And even when she does feel safe, she doesn't know how to operate within that safety because she has never had the safe environment to practice. So I don't like that rebuttal from women that you'll just submit for the right man, because if submission just belongs to women, which I don't believe it does, but if that's the case, you're not going to just submit for the right man. You're more likely to corrupt that man by fighting him, by abusing him. He's more likely to develop toxic communication styles, fighting with you for positioning, than he is to be respected by you because he's not a threat to you anymore. But in addition to, and however, right, Cam's point about a woman not being submissive enough, it's up to a man to create the environment. It's up to a man to create that level of comfort. It's up to a man through his commitment, through his loyalty, through his wisdom, and through his example, and through his response to her, to create an environment where a woman can be vulnerable and eventually open up, where she can learn new skills, right, and develop new communication habits and styles, if she is in fact capable of changing at that point that he meets her. A lot of these men have never shown a woman commitment or loyalty, have left home after home after home with children that aren't being taken care of on a daily basis by their fathers. They got visitation from multiple babies' mothers because they're not sticking in the homes. Women are learning to fend for themselves through trial and error, through fire. They're learning to fend for themselves, and then a man might try to enter a woman's life and tell her she's not submitting. Submit to what? She has never met a loyal man. She has never met a protector. She has never met a true provider. She's only met men who wave their money and their things in her face, only to take them back when they get mad, only to take them back when she's no longer convenient or they're upset with her, abandoning her kids and abandoning the relationship when things get tough. In that society, where do women ever develop the submission that we keep hearing about? right? The submission that we're used to seeing from our grandmothers and our great grandmothers. Where do women grow into those types of women in this new modern era? They don't. As much as men complain about women not being submissive or not being soft enough or soft-spoken enough or quiet enough or helpful enough or, understanding a man's needs and catering to a man's needs enough, how the hell is a woman supposed to cater to a man's needs when she's got to do everything a man used to do for herself and also cater to his needs? That doesn't make any sense. I think Cam made a comment like, he thinks a woman is one who takes care of her own, but also knows how to cater to a man's needs. Those were his exact words. Well, if a woman is busy taking care of her own, that means she's providing for herself, she's protecting herself, she's doing for herself, which is great. That's adulting. Good. But that means that there's no man to support her and cater to her needs. Why is she supposed to cater completely to her own needs and take care of herself completely and also then cater to a man's needs after doing that? Now she got two jobs, take care of her and take care of some man who just because he has a pair of balls shows up, doesn't believe he needs to do anything. How is a woman ever supposed to become soft enough or vulnerable enough or comfortable enough to submit to anyone when they work for themselves and they also work for you? Why are her needs not important? When are men going to start trying to cater to a woman's needs? When is it going to be a two-way street? I'm tired of a lot of these alpha men and a lot of these whoever else starting these conversations with what a woman needs to do for a man. And there's never a turn. There's never a switch. There's never a click that, wait, maybe in a relationship, two people need to do for each other. I've never heard any of these alpha jackasses talk about what a man needs to do for his woman. Every time they meet or see a man that does for his woman, they call him simp, they call him a punk, they call him all of these different things. But they never call him a man of honor or a respectful man. They never give him any good feedback. It's always negative. A man is looked down upon for catering to a woman's needs, while a woman is expected to take care of her own needs, the needs of her child, and then come cater to some guy who doesn't believe that he needs to do anything for her but have balls. That doesn't make sense. A relationship is between two people. So yes, Cam is right. A lot of women have trouble falling into the vulnerability required to let a man feel empowered in his influence over you in a relationship. That is absolutely true. But it is not true that those women who have developed that issue will just be good for the right guy. That is not true at all. I talk to a whole lot of women who ruin a whole lot of relationships and try to enlist my help to get these men back because they didn't just turn into a different woman when they got the good man. They was the same shitty woman, the same shitty communicator, the same toxic, abusive, narcissistic communicator who had learned to fend for themselves and now were trying to get out of that and get back into a we state of mind when they had lived their whole lives in a me state of mind out of protection and fear. A woman needs to make that change in herself. She has to see that issue in herself and she has to decide that she's committed to that change. It's not just going to happen because she finds the right guy. But the condition itself still usually boils back to some failure that a man had. Whether it's a father who disappointed her, the grandfather disappointed her, the men who left her mother, right? It's generally a generational curse set by a man walking away from his responsibility as a father, or as a husband, or as a protector, or as a provider. Women have learned to fend for themselves because they have not had reliable men to do it. They've grown callous and they've grown in their masculinity in order to survive not having suitable men. So we all have work to do, not just the women, and certainly not just the men. So yes, Cam is making a point. There is truth here, and it's just a one-sided truth. Men often say things like women need to just shut up and submit. I think women would be right to create a similar slogan that men should just shut up and commit. Commit to their responsibilities, commit to providing, commit to actually protecting a woman physically, spiritually, and emotionally and mentally. Commit to being their rock, commit to their support, commit to their needs as well. Men need to shut up and commit. Just like some of these guys think women need to shut up and submit. If more men would commit, more women would submit. And they would learn to submit through their relationship dynamics built with fathers, with brothers, with grandfathers, with uncles, with male superiors, with men who were supposed to be there for them. So yes, there's some truth in what Cam is saying, even if he's not saying it in the best or nicest way. But that responsibility falls on the shoulders of men and women. Men to do what's right by the women in their life right now to stop the generational curse of women needing to grow into men just to survive. And women who understand and have caught in themselves the issue of masculinity or of a calloused heart, trying to make that change for themselves and committing to the new person that they're trying to be through selecting better men, but also checking themselves and making sure that they're doing everything they can to evolve from that brokenness so that they can eventually put the shield down and trust someone else to be good to them and do good for them. So anyway, that's what I feel about what Cam Newton said. I think there's truth in it, but in and of itself, as is and as stated, nothing is that absolute. There are always a lot of things that go into that. And there's a lot of learning to go around, especially for a man with multiple babies' mothers. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Follow me at KFIC24 on Instagram. Please share my videos if you think they're helpful. If you need to book a call, go to girltalkwithguys.com. I'll get with y'all later.